This week on Full Circle Florida, the currency of crime. We'll dive deeper into how crypto is becoming the go-to for criminals, from the Bitcoin ransom in the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping case to organized crime rings. I talked to a specialist who works with law enforcement tracking crypto all over the world. And spoiler alert, Florida is ground zero. Then our Washington correspondent Avery Harper this week on the fiery AG Bondi hearing and its potential fallout, and that looming government shutdown, what could happen next. And our panel this week, Dr. Susan McManus and Jacob Reyes from Axios will unpack the Epstein drip, the latest files dropping, the redactions, the revelations, and we're reading between the lines. Welcome in, everyone. My first guest this week is a professional crypto tracker who spoke with us all the way from Tel Aviv, Israel. He's working with law enforcement in America tracking crypto in crimes. As the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping case has gripped the nation, the CEO of Lionsgate Network, Bezalel Raviv, is sending out a warning. Crypto, he says, is the currency of choice for criminals. And Florida, as it turns out, is a hotbed. Is crypto becoming the currency of crime, or is that an oversimplification?
For the past 10 years, it actually has become the vehicle of financial fraud for cyber criminals, targeting individuals that are even not interested in crypto. People need to correlate crypto and crime as something we need to attend to, because we have ignored crypto-related crime for a very long time, and cyber criminals have actually taken notes. And here we are today.
And in cases involving ransom demands, like what we've seen with the Nancy Guthrie case, investigators often say the first 24 hours are critical. Why is that window so important with this kind of currency? And what can criminals do with digital currency in that short amount of time?
Because while you can recover crypto and you can trace crypto, you cannot recover time. Time is very essential and is of the extreme essence when it comes to ransom. We're talking about human life here. There's no clues about the condition of the person that was kidnapped, and this is obviously critical for everyone.
I know you work directly with law enforcement, tracing cryptocurrency tied to crimes. How difficult is it to really follow these kinds of transactions? And is crypto as untraceable as many criminals would believe, or at least what's been portrayed in the media?
So there's a lot of mysticism around blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies, but just like myth, we are here to clarify crypto transactions remain on a public ledger that everyone can see. So cyber criminals and scammers are using different tactics to cloak transactions. But let me be very clear, we, our Lionsgate Network, are able to trace every single transaction regardless of blockchain, regardless of the maneuvers that scammers implement in the process of financial fraud, which is a huge scamdemic in the United States of America, with over 6,000 new cases every day registered according to the IC3. So we're looking at really something that is incredibly neglected, the entire sphere of blockchain intelligence and crypto tracing, and we can change that.
Looking ahead, as cryptocurrency becomes more mainstream, are law enforcement agencies keeping pace, or does crypto still give criminals a meaningful edge when it comes to crimes like kidnappings, extortion, and other serious crimes that crypto could potentially be used for transactionally?
I can tell you that there's so many things that we can do, and we do on a regular basis at Lionsgate Network, where victims of financial fraud, very heinous financial fraud crimes, come to us because law enforcement had refused to deal with their case only because they said the word crypto. So again, we are in a situation where we need to evolve, because criminals have evolved, and instead of targeting infrastructure and networks, they now target the individuals, as we see with this case. Very unfortunate case, but we've seen the red flags, and we've reported the red flags to law enforcement many months ago. And now we have one option, and that is to elevate our performance.
So, you're on the good side of this, and this is your world, this is your business, and you're way ahead of this issue. You mentioned that Florida, in particular Tampa Bay, that region, that you're seeing this kind of activity happen here. What are you seeing here?
We're seeing an incredible spike since COVID of people from Florida that are being targeted in different scenarios and different scheme. The number one is the fake trading platform. The number two scenario is where people impersonate actual entities because data was breached, and therefore for cyber criminals it's an easy target, and we see people that are falling for it like a plague in Florida, and obviously people are not aware. It's not a communal conversation, and this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to reflect as much light to shadow work, and there's so much that we need to do, because if you understand the magician trick, you're not going to be applauding at the end of the sequence. You'll notice the trick before it manifests. And that's actually what cyber criminals do today. And you can imagine that they are using AI to their benefit to target a lot more people with a lot less resources. And this is the eerie part, because law enforcement have not taken AI as a tool to disrupt malicious AI activities. So again, unfortunately, from our perspective at Lionsgate Network, we will see more and more cases, because right now cyber criminals seeking to target people financially, they flourish. It's their springtime right now, and we need to bring them to autumn and winter. We need to seize their operation, and we want to tell them, if they're watching, crypto is traceable, and if it's traceable, it's seizable and recoverable. And this is the kind of cooperation we are looking to have with law enforcement in Florida, because this cooperation can excel performance for the better good of all. And this is what we are here for.
Fascinating subject, and more relevant by the day and by the hour. Bezalel Raviv, CEO of the Lionsgate Network. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, the Bondi bomb on Capitol Hill and another shutdown looming. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And joining me right now, ABC News political director Avery Harper. Avery, do you think there's going to be any lasting fallout from the Bondi hearing this week? Or was this exactly the kind of political theater that the public has come to expect from politicians on both sides of the aisle? And at the end of the day, they say a lot without saying really anything at all, and nothing changes.
Right. I do think that the dysfunction that was on display in Washington during those hearings contributes to the overall fatigue that many Americans have with politics, and the apathy that we might see come some of these midterm elections, and how that will impact turnout. I know that Democrats are hoping that they're able to use what they see as real issues with oversight at the DOJ, the notion of politics weighing in on the investigations that that agency takes up as a argument to use as they try to get voters out to the polls for them. But I do think that ultimately voters are going to be voting on issues that are hitting them at their kitchen table, things like affordability, access to health care. Those are going to be the things that are going to have the longest lasting impact.
Well, speaking of things that are going to hit voters, it could hit voters. The bigger headache here with DHS funding running out. How could that end up impacting the American people, another government shutdown?
Right. This is going to be a partial shutdown, and will affect agencies that are funded through the Department of Homeland Security, things like TSA. And so those folks will end up going to work without pay if Congress isn't able to get a deal done. And there's no indication necessarily that they will. There are definitely parties that are still far apart on this. And it became an enormous pressure point in former and previous shutdowns where we saw TSA workers who were calling out sick. That ended up disrupting air travel. And like you mentioned, we know that there are lots of folks who are looking ahead to things like spring break to get on planes and travel around the country and even around the world. And so this could all impact that.
All right, Avery Harper joining us from Washington, D.C. Avery, as always, thank you. Next on Full Circle Florida, the one big story that got very little attention this week and why you should care. Welcome back, everyone. Let's bring in our panel this week. He is a reporter with Axios Tampa Bay. Jacob Reyes, a returning guest back on the show for us. And of course, our voice of calm and reason, which we could use a lot more of these days. My partner in politics, of course, Dr. Susan McManus. Speaking of calm, Pam Bondi, that was something, wasn't it? That hearing set off a lot of fireworks. Florida's fingerprints all over this Epstein story. Obviously, it happened here. You've got the former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi now on the hot seat as Trump's AG. Trump himself, a Florida resident. All of this unfolding in South Florida. I lived there during this time when everyone talked about Epstein. Everyone knew about it. If you lived down there, you knew about it. But it's like this great awakening that's happened with the country right now. But when it comes to Pam Bondi and the way, she kind of put on a show and the lawmakers asking her questions, obviously this whole thing was political theater. Should we expect any attorney general under any president to stay non-political? And I'm wondering, is Donald Trump making a mistake by not tackling this head on instead of encouraging people to just move on? Because it seems like this is no longer a Republican-Democrat divide, but a divorce within MAGA that's happening in real time, and that's the party he created.
I think, he's riding, he rode into office specifically, tapping into these people who had a natural curiosity with this case, right? And wanting to see the release of these files. But then, then his administration started to get cold feet. And when they ultimately released these files, they redacted some of the names of co-conspirators while releasing the names of survivors. And, survivors afterwards, they spoke about how, Pam Bondi reacted in that hearing. They found it dehumanizing.
She's just going to follow his orders. I don't understand why he doesn't just say, you know what, Pam, release the whole thing. If he has nothing to hide, here, The
bottom line is the first question you ask. Can any AG be apolitical? And the answer, no, and they never have been. It's just that certain cases rise to the forefront, become politicized, high profile, and then the AGs have to get involved. People, when the hearing was first begun, most people that are analysts like us say, okay, I know that the lenses that people are going to be looking at this is through their party. Mm-hmm. Sure enough.
Yeah. Do you think she's safe with her job?
Yes.
She will stay, you think?
The president came out immediately in favor of keeping her.
Okay. Meanwhile, these DHS documents that were released this week show about 14% of immigrants arrested by ICE last year had violent criminal records. I know you've done some reporting on this, Jacob. What does this reveal about who ICE is targeting? And this is not just on the national level. We've done stories here this week where those numbers almost coincide on the local level as well when it comes to the percentages.
Right. I mean, immigrant experts have said this, for a long time, that immigrants, regardless of legal status, are 5 times less likely to be jailed for violent crimes. They're far less likely to commit crimes. They're safer neighbors than the rest of us. And, this has been, knowledge that everybody, in the immigrant space is aware of. But, this is what they were warning about. But when you see the language and the rhetoric coming from this administration, it paints a very different picture. And when an undocumented immigrant commits a crime, it's, all over the headlines.
Does this risk losing a key voting bloc for the Republicans, how ICE is being perceived, Susan, like Latino voters, Hispanic voters, specifically in Florida? Couldn't the president just say, you know what, I'm declaring victory. I closed down the border. It's much better than it was under Biden. It's more responsible. We can move on now.
You can't do the latter, but yes, and there's already an awareness. Look at what's already happened. The president backpedaled. Why? Because public opinion was so strong of the way that people were looking at ICE's arrest of people based on what happened in Minneapolis. You have to think about they've changed in that way, and now you see we're to the point of where the country is evenly split, well, a little bit more in favor of totally closing down ICE. It's 46-41, close it or not. But it also, the changes that the president's made are mostly in reaction to the Republicans who were getting a lot of flack from their constituents back home.
All right, I want to move on to a story that didn't get a lot of attention this week, the deficit. $1.85 trillion and counting, the interest alone dragging down the GDP. Is that sustainable? And this is one where Democrats and Republicans will kind of punt the ball on.
Well, everybody wants to point to the states that have to balance their budget, and how they do it is they have, these rainy day funds where you put aside money when your economy's good, and you can borrow from that money to make your budget balance. But the problem right now is the way it works in Congress is you can raise taxes and cut spending. But the way it works in Washington is when times are good, you spend everything and you don't cut anything, and you create a demand for programs that can't be eliminated once we move to the next budget year.
Well, and it's one, again, I mean, the media kind of, blazes over it. It gets a little bit of attention, but no one ever talks about it. This article that came out about AI, I don't know, it made the rounds on social media. Basically, it's the apocalypse. It's coming for us all. I feel like we're getting one of those articles every week about AI. Do you think that's oversold, that it's going to crash the economy and we're all going to be out of a job?
I think, partially there's a natural hesitation when new technology comes out. I think the real danger, though, is the way we freely give out our information and our data. And this is the same thing throughout the proliferation of the internet and social media. We've continued to give out our information for free, and there are some real dangers associated with that.
I mean, if you were written an article about social media 30 years ago and how it was going to turn out, it'd probably be a pretty dark article considering what we know now.
But AI is very real in the minds of people. Time magazine did a terrific story on that and showed a huge portion of Americans very concerned. Privacy lacks, particularly involving children, loss of jobs, you name it. So the public is becoming a bigger issue now than it was even a week ago.
One job, I think people would hope AI would replace politicians. I saw this article too that caught my attention, that more people are leaving Congress, more politicians, both parties, since World War II. And I say good, it shouldn't be a permanent job. Leave after 2 terms or 3 terms, but and most people support term limits, but it's a non-starter, it seems, in D.C.
We actually had term limits in the 90s. For 23 states had term limits until the U.S. Supreme Court said, no, you got to do this through a constitutional amendment. So obviously one of the steps to putting that constitutional amendment is that the states have to approve to put it on the ballot, or members of Congress, 2/3 of the House. Those are 3/4, I don't remember which. So, this is the problem, but it's the one issue that you consistently see 80 to 85% of Americans in favor of term limits.
We can agree on that. We'll leave it there. All right, guys, hang with me. We got our final thoughts when we come back right after this. All right, let's bring our panel back in. Time for final thoughts and what you're looking for next week. I know what you're thinking about.
Yeah,
baseball, huh?
I think the Rays have been, the talk of the town for quite a bit. And, there's only 6 months for Hillsborough to make a deal. They've made a big point of, tightening the purse, and now they're, having to put their money where their mouth is. There's a lot of excitement with the Rays, but, it comes at a big cost.
This is accelerating really quickly, the timeline. It's gonna happen. All right, Susan, what do you think?
Looking
you gave
ahead.
me a good tip last week with the AI centers.
Yeah, looking ahead, we're still going to be heavily debating Department of Homeland Security and ICE. That ain't going away.
That looming shutdown. And then it'll take a little while, but this could impact people, spring break travel, long lines at the airports, if they don't figure this out, as always. All right, guys, thank you so much for stopping by and being with us here this week. And thank you for watching on Full Circle Florida. We hope you'll join us again next week, and make sure to add our free 24/7 streaming news channel, Tampa Bay 28+. Have a great week.